Hey everybody, wanted to do a quick little project update. All right, here's the little front room where we do any computer stuff or music stuff. And everything out here is frigid right now. Over here, I'll show you around a little bit. This is our Moons and Stars game that we have for ourselves. And this is just a little one of many poems my grandpa wrote back in 1963. I printed this out for my dad's funeral a year ago, and it's just been still sitting here. These are some of my son's books, and these are some of his amazing Pokemon drawings he's made. They're insane. They're so good. These are just some of them. They're freaking great. There's one up here too. And there's outside. We have a little blizzardy lake effect going on today. No school. Looks pretty, but it's awful. I'm gonna have to go out and we're gonna have to go shovel again soon. Here's a little bookcase where I keep all the project binders. All of this is the first book, the artwork for the first book, and then we have like sketchbooks and stuff here to keep track of things. These are Doke cards. This is going to be one of the projects we'll be learning more about in the upcoming weeks. I'm making those right now. Those are linoleum cut prints. And these are some of the little figurine prints that I've painted. And here's the world map. Now, okay, let's take a look at this for a sec. Let's zoom in on one spot. This is where you are in the game on spell that I'm testing and revising right now. And this is just the world map view of the huge island that you're on. Let's see. The first book takes place, a lot of it here, but through here, even some around here. So this little arc. And the game we're going to talk about today that I'm still in the process of making takes place on this. So here's the whole world. Takes place on this little island right here, this little group of islands. And we're going to talk about that today. In fact, let's go. So when I was planning out this game, I knew where it was taking place. I knew some of the characters involved, but it's a whole island, so there's going to be so many characters. So you can't really wing it with, well, I can't with so many. So I had to figure out at what stage in the huge timeline of this world that this game takes place. And once I figured that out, I could go over here and there's just a little Google Doc that, and I made, and this is just a huge timeline of everything that's going on with this island up until the game. And it seems ridiculous because it is the amount, but because of this, let's see, I think we're getting there. Oh yeah, and then we got like character lists and stuff. Is so that the reason that the people are the way they are, the things they do, everything that's going on is connected. That's actually the main character of the game right there. And while that's loading, let's go over here and take a peek. All right, I had these hung up and they're huge. So let me set the phone down for a minute so I can show you these a little better. This is the game map version of this. Let me get a closer look so you see what's happening. Every one of these little grids is going to be what you see on the screen at one time. So each of these screens has to be individually figured out. And then there's houses, and you have to know where all the doors are because they're going to lead to another screen. You're going to actually start right there. And this bottom island here is kind of the huge opening tutorial part of the game. Eventually get into the bigger world, you're like, holy cow, it's actually enormous. Now the other one And I'll show you why I'm showing you this in a minute, because it's connected to how I have to make this appear on the screen. Here's the other map, same size as the first map, but a little more disconnected. So every time you go into a house, it'll have its own screen and location. And these are empty right now. These are just very rough shapes of walls and stuff. And this includes like caves and interesting little places you find, all the way up to these bigger sections, which are like dungeon levels, okay? So there's a bunch of these. These are done. The basic layouts of these are all done in programming, which I'll show you next. But I still have to go in and populate these with objects and animals and people and weather and every single thing you can think of. So let me show you that next. And that's up on the computer. Here you see a grid of blocks. And these are the blocks that are the background of every single scene in the game. I take information about each block and its texture. Right now, it's a basic sand. It's using a photo I took on vacation in the Adirondacks a couple years ago, actually. And I take that information. I take the information about its height. And I need some information about the invisible colliders. Is it something where a character will fall through, they'll bump into empty space, or they can just walk around normally? So these three things, I thought it would be interesting to put that into a list. Now, programming for someone, especially someone like me, has to be pretty simple. So I thought I'll take a very simple idea called an array, which is really just a list in programming. And here you see a bunch of numbers. So instead of making one list that has a certain amount of numbers, 1, 2, 3, they're 4-digit numbers. And the list itself is actually a list of lists. So if I make a list of numbers that's going across, and then each number in the list is another list, when you line them up like this, it looks like a grid. And this grid matches the block grid that I just showed you. And what I did was I took those three things, collider information, the height it's supposed to be, and whatever texture it's supposed to be, wood, lava, dirt, mud, sand. And I just assigned them different numbers. And then what I do is I write a little program that then looks at every single one of these numbers and splits it up into 3 other numbers. So I can figure out what texture it's supposed to be, how tall it's supposed to be, and what happens when a character or something bumps into it. So I made a gigantic list because I needed a ton of screens for this game, the overworld and all the interior shots. So I just have lists and lists and lists and lists and lists, and they all have to be tracked by the program. Now, if I test this and push play, you'll see there's rocks in here too. That means we can overlay as many lists as we want, that we can drop in houses, rocks, plants, animals, characters, weather, effects, lights, things like that. Now you can also see that there are some slight height changes right here. The landscape isn't too crazy. You'll see that there's green for grass, there's stones, they're all at different heights. You can program in things to have other special behaviors. For example, if it's water, you can have it, I told it to move up and down randomly and slowly to give it a little more life to the waves moving. Now I'm just going to click through and just give you a general sense of the variability you can get with just by changing a few things about height and texture. You can create a pretty fun landscape. Now these are exteriors. You'll see some interiors. You can see some placeholder art where I'm testing out being able to stack more layers of lists on top. So things like plants, trees, houses. Even though I don't have the models ready yet, I wanted to test it out and see how it worked. And made sure that it did. Here are more examples. Yeah, you'll see some fields, some dungeons, some houses. All pretty bare, all pretty empty and sterile. but hopefully it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. And how they're just lists of numbers that turn into the landscapes that you just dream up out of your head. Ooh, it's coming down even harder now. So I think that's all I'm going to do for now. The next update I do, I'll hopefully get into more of how the choices you make change the game. It is absolutely freezing out here right now, and I don't usually work out here in the winter unless I have a hat and a coat.